Are you tired of picking up the phone dozens of times a day, only to be met with silence, cold rejections, or worse, being hung up on right after your first sentence? Cold calling, once considered a basic skill in sales, is now turning into a nightmare that drains your motivation, wastes your time, and even erodes your faith in the profession. You're not lacking effort. The issue lies in your approach. One wrong move, and the whole game is lost. Misguided strategy. The result is absolute zero. And the scariest part, you might be thinking cold calling no longer works, while others still close deals daily with just one timely, well-executed call. So, what actually makes a cold call succeed in a world where customers grow colder by the day? It's time to face the truth and change the game. Starting with your very first call. Part 1. Overcoming fear and resetting mindset. The harsh truth, most salespeople fail before they even dial the first number. They don't lose due to poor skills, but due to psychological shrinking. They imagine rejection, yelling, or being judged. This invisible fear turns the phone into a pressure-inducing object. But let's look at the reality. A phone call can't physically harm you. There's no serious legal risk. No spiritual death occurs. You're fighting a ghost of your own making. To break through, you must shatter that illusion. The consequence of internalizing fear is severe. It makes you mumble, avoid confrontation, suppress your personality, and give up after a few silent calls. Fear strangles your voice, kills your initiative, and turns you into a bland copy of someone else. Worse still, you're subconsciously sending customers a message, "I'm not sure I deserve to be here." In a world where buyers are overwhelmed by sales pitches, hesitation is their cue to hang up immediately. That's not rejection. That's indifference. Far worse. The only way out is a mindset reset. Treat every call like a training ground for resilience. Turn failure into raw material to refine your reflexes. When you realize no one can hurt you but yourself, freedom begins. The solution is to call with a playful attitude, without fear of failure. Tell yourself, "I lose nothing. I'm just looking for the 1% who are ready." After each call, don't rate yourself by results, but by your courage. Practical action. List 20 numbers and commit to calling all within 30 minutes. No analysis, no hesitation, just action. Part 2. Gamifying cold calling behavior. The real challenge with cold calling isn't technique, it's enduring silence, indifference, and repeated rejection. With just a 1% success rate, that means swallowing 99 failures to earn one win. Traditional approaches will drain your motivation fast. Fatigue, self-doubt, and quitting become inevitable. But if you flip your perspective and turn the process into a survival game, you'll gain the strength to keep going. Instead of demanding immediate results, define your own game rules. Every call is a point scored. Every rejection is a chance to test a new response. Hung up on award points for resilience. Talked for over 30 seconds. Mark it as intro effectiveness. Create a level up map, ranking up every 20 call batch. That way, you're no longer a struggling salesperson. You're a player conquering the market's resistance system. You may lose a round, but you still level up. To start, prepare a goal checklist, 30 calls, regardless of outcome. Record your emotions every 10 calls. Reward yourself for completing the set without breaks. Spark motivation by sharing your score with teammates. Turn tedious repetition into a fun challenge. When you're playing, you're experimenting, you're creative, and you're no longer afraid to make mistakes. The more you play, the less rejection affects you. And the closer you get to the breakthrough call, the game isn't about avoiding failure. It's about making failure irrelevant. Part 3. Risk mindset and freedom to express. What kills a call isn't rejection. It's the caller's hesitation. When you approach with a don't disturb mindset, you strip yourself of leadership. Cold calling is about stepping into unknown territory. And if you're unwilling to take risks, you're stuck in mediocrity. Fear of being wrong makes you generic, echoing what everyone says, fading into the background noise. Outstanding people don't have magical skills. They dare to be different when it counts. The escape lies in shedding result obsession. When you drop the pressure to succeed with every call, you'll dare to try new things. It could be an unconventional opener, a surprising tone, or a witty comeback to cold indifference. Try stepping back, tossing out a joke, switching roles. A timely act of rebellion can shift the entire dynamic. Treat every call as an experimental playground. The more variations you test, the more chances you create. When you change the rules, you force the other side to abandon their script too. Start with a small challenge in every batch of 10 calls. Intentionally change one element: the greeting, the tone, or the way you pose questions. Log reactions. Don't judge right or wrong, just track impressions. After a week, you'll have a real-world reaction map, something no training can teach. Build the habit of creating new scripts instead of repeating old ones. When you allow yourself to be wrong, you pave the way for breakthroughs. Difference is born not from safety, but from the courage to test the unknown. Part 4. The strategy of warming up cold calls. People react negatively to cold calls not because they dislike you, but because you're a stranger abruptly entering their personal world. Information from an unknown person, without context or reason, is disruptive. The instinctive response is rejection. This has nothing to do with your product, your pricing, or your skills. It's simply human nature. And to break through that barrier, you need one thing by the time the call happens. You should no longer be a complete stranger. Many fail because they call before ever registering on the recipient's radar. In a multi-channel age, there's no reason to rely solely on a single phone call to establish connection. A smartly designed touchpoint sequence helps the prospect recognize your face, recall your name, and lower their defenses. A short email, a light message, or even a single LinkedIn appearance before the call builds familiarity. So when the call comes, the reaction isn't, "Who is this?" but "I think I've seen this person before." The right mindset is cold calling doesn't mean unprepared calling. Effective cold calling is the pinnacle of silent preparation. You build invisible awareness through small actions, send short info, share helpful value, or simply appear repeatedly in front of them. Don't expect the first call to work magic. Instead, invest in accumulating recognition. Each exposure is a brick in the trust foundation. When it's solid enough, the call no longer feels cold. It becomes a continuation of prior signals. If you've never built a contact sequence, start now with a 5 to 7 touch formula before the call. Schedule periodic emails, prepare valuable content, engage with their posts, and log every interaction. Each touch reduces the cold factor and increases the chance they'll answer. Pick 10 potential clients and build a 10-day touch map. Don't call until you've warmed them up. Cold calls will always be tough, unless you know how to make yourself feel familiar. Part 5. Scripting and the first 7 seconds. The most frequent failures in calling come from those who believe just let it flow naturally. That spontaneity becomes a trap when the caller lacks structure. Entering a call without a clear script often leads to rambling, unfocused talking, or awkward silences. This breaks rhythm, creates an unprofessional impression, and ends the call prematurely. A successful call requires strategic design, not just momentary inspiration or luck. A script doesn't make you sound robotic. On the contrary, it's a framework that gives you flexibility within safe boundaries. With a solid structure, you no longer fear losing direction. Scripted callers lead more clearly, speak more concisely, and communicate more confidently. That's why their confidence comes through in their voice. Authenticity only shines when it's been well rehearsed. No actor steps on stage without memorizing lines. No professional caller starts a call without a solid draft. The pivotal moment of the call lies in the first 7 seconds. That's when the listener instinctively decides keep listening or hang up. You need to break their pattern or make them pause to think. For example, instead of "Hi, I'm calling from," try, "I know this is an unannounced call, but I think it might surprise you." Your only goal here is to keep them on the line for another 25 seconds. Practice your opener like an athlete practices their serve. Write 3 versions of your greeting. Read them aloud daily. Record and listen to yourself. Choose the most effective version and use it for your first 10 calls each day. No edits, no improvisation. Once you've mastered it, then start experimenting with variations. The reason to memorize it isn't to recite blindly, but to free your mind to read the situation and respond quickly to listener cues. Once the opening is locked, build a full transition framework to guide the call. The logical flow should be surprising greeting. Purpose of the call, a quick list of common client pain points. And finally, an open-ended question about their current situation. Avoid questions like, "Are you busy?" And instead, enter the call as though you have a valid reason to be there. A tightly structured call helps you speak less, ask smarter, and create space for the listener to open up. Part 6. Listening instead of introducing. A common mistake callers make is spending too much time talking about themselves, their product, or company. They believe detailed introductions build trust, but all it does is exhaust the listener. In those first few seconds, the customer doesn't care who you are. They're only asking, "What does this have to do with me?" If you can't answer that quickly, they'll end the conversation. You have just seconds to prove you're worth listening to. The only way is to shift focus entirely to the listener. The more you talk about yourself, the more you dilute the message. Customers don't care who else you've helped. They care if you understand them. The only way to show that is to begin with the problems they might be facing. Instead of saying, "We're a leading company in," say, "Right now." Many businesses in your industry are facing 3 major roadblocks. This shows you observe the market, have data, and think like a consultant. Most importantly, you're not turning the call into a soulless presentation. When you name the right problem, clients pause to assess if it applies to them. The moment they feel this relates to me, they start listening. That's when you stop talking and let them speak. Someone sharing their problem won't hang up mid-sentence. At that point, the conversation shifts from one-way to two-way. This doesn't happen if you just keep pitching features. Think of it this way: you're not selling, you're discovering. And the best discoverers know when to be silent. The ability to ask the right question is a core skill in phone persuasion. A simple example after listing common challenges. Ask, "Do any of these apply to you?" If they say no, follow with, "If there's one thing you'd most like to improve this quarter, what would it be?" This question doesn't just prolong the call, it repositions you from seller to guide. People being asked questions feel respected. Practice timely silence. After asking, don't rush to fill the gap. Let them think. Let them speak. When they feel your patience, the pressure disappears. Get in the habit of jotting down key phrases, not full quotes. After 10 calls, you'll have a customer language dictionary. From there, refine your greetings, examples, and responses accordingly. Start by listening to understand, not to reply. The deeper you listen, the more trust you build with every call. Part 7. Soft but clear closing. The ultimate goal of a cold call isn't to sell. It's to create a clear, specific next step with a defined time and action commitment. The biggest mistake callers make is ending with vague statements like, "I'll send more info," or "Let's stay in touch." That's not a commitment. It's an escape from awkwardness. You worked hard to earn those few precious minutes. Don't leave the call without securing a meeting or a concrete confirmation. Ending with nothing is a complete failure. To achieve that, you don't need to push. You need to guide gently but firmly. Use phrases like, Can I propose a deeper conversation next week to share specific solutions? How does that sound? If they agree, immediately offer 2 specific time slots. Don't ask, when are you free? That forces them to do extra work. You suggest, they choose. Turning the next step into a calendar event adds seriousness and makes them value the meeting more. As soon as they agree, don't wait. Ask, are you near your computer or phone? I'll send the invite now to confirm. When they say yes, send it immediately. Double-check that it's received and ask for a quick confirmation. This may sound simple, but it's a key skill in turning conversation into concrete action. Once they click accept on your invite, that's the first time they've taken action for you. That moment becomes the foundation of a real working relationship. Part 8. Speed and repetition are power. The real follow-up to a successful call isn't celebration. It's dialing the next number. High performers don't succeed because they got lucky with a good script. They succeed because they don't pause after each small win. They don't spend 15 minutes praising themselves after booking a meeting. They use that positive energy to jump into the next call. That's the difference between someone hitting monthly targets and someone building lasting success year after year. Speed creates momentum. Repetition builds mastery. Calling someone you don't know, uninvited, and unexpected is seen as irrational in a world that prefers convenience and passive interactions. But precisely because it's irrational, it creates distance. The distance between those waiting for customers to knock and those taking the initiative to seize opportunity. Maybe the more automated the world becomes, the more powerful a real human voice becomes. Maybe it's the roughness, the unannounced nature of a cold call that pierces through the market's comfort zone. If one call can change revenue, open contracts, and rewrite your career path, then what reason is there not to start? No one remembers the silent observer. People remember the one who dared to step forward. The phone isn't heavy. Only your hand lacks the conviction to lift it. Thank you for watching the whole video. Please like and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss the next videos.